am so happy, though, to introduce you to Kelley Tenny. And let me tell you why. You know, Kelley is, and she's a lifelong learner. She has so much expertise in not just teaching, but in understanding, you know, that transition. I was just telling her that when I left higher ed, um, you know, it took me a long time to unlearn the higher ed model because I wanted everyone to know the theory and the history and the, you know, all those things that we felt were so important. And that as adults, I think, and as people out in the world, particularly those of us who are coaches and, you know, just overcommitted on just about every level we could be, you know, I thank God for people like Kelley because I had the worst trouble trying to do that, you know, trying to unlearn. I call it unlearning academic because we didn't know, or I didn't know, that in order for that learning as an adult who is not in college anymore, you know, who has a fully formed brain right now, you know, and are able to understand all these things, it's a different process, though. And what I realized fairly early on was that my academic background wasn't serving me well in terms of curriculum. And Kelley has this broad, you know, background of talents and abilities. And what she's talking about today is something that I believe in so much, and that is how to create the courses that are going to really appeal and ones that are not, you know, the semester long. I mean, I thought of courses as 14 to 18 weeks long, you know, and I'm sure there are people who are so fascinated by what I teach that they would be willing to do that. But I don't know if I'm willing to do that anymore.
Right.
You know, so I am going to turn the presentation over to you, Kelley, and let you take it away. Is there anything that you need to bring up, or did you have anything for background? Or
I do have slides that I can share, which might be helpful just as we move along.
We may be able to see how they look. Slides don't always do well on StreamYard, but let's see how they.
Yeah, let me see.
I may have to give you the.
Let's see.
Rusty knows this, I don't.
And while we're figuring that out, I just want to say hello and welcome. And thank you so much for that introduction. I'm super excited to be here. And I know that when it comes to digital marketing, there really is a place for online courses. The trick is just how do we make sure these online courses are valuable and transformational, and they don't fall into that, you know, the category or into that trap of being in online course that ends up causing overwhelm, or, you know, some of the pain points that we do have, I think, with a lot of online courses. Let me see if I can share my screen here. And
let me see if you can. I don't know if you can.
I think I can.
Okay, great.
So here we are. You should be able to see this now.
Let me add it to the stream from my end. There you go.
Okay. So what I want to talk about today is the rise of the micro course. And a micro course is a new concept to many. I think there's a big part or a lot of space in the digital marketing world for micro anything right now. We're really in that time of recognizing that micro content is what the trend is, from TikTok videos to Instagram Reels, you know, YouTube Shorts, and all of those things. So it makes sense that this concept of the micro course is kind of following that trend and right along with it. And the first thing before we talk about what is the micro course, I want to address some of the current beliefs and pain points, if you will, that we have around online courses. Now, I know when we think about digital marketing, one of the biggest things that I feel like, and of course you're the expert, so you might correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the biggest things is recognizing that people need an online course. You know, when I look at marketing or, you know, things that are being put out there, the concept of having an online course in a digital marketing space, I think is something that most entrepreneurs recognize could be valuable and feel like it's something that they need to have, right? Now, there's a lot of resistance around creating online courses, and I want to speak to online courses first in the sense of the traditional online course creation, right? So if we go and look at some of those leaders in the industry of traditional online courses, you may have come across things or concepts that tell you to take all of your content and dump it into an online course, right? Put a price tag on it. It's going to make you thousands of dollars while you sleep. And it's just this great, great way to generate, consistent revenue. And none of us would say no to generating consistent revenue while we sleep.
Right.
Right. The problem is I think most of us probably have taken an online course or many and not finished it. Right.
I have several sitting on my digital bookshelf right now.
Okay. Or you've gotten through it, but then you didn't actually implement anything that you learned from it. And I think this is kind of the stigma around online courses, because we've all been there. And one of the things that I recognized coming out of education and why I came into this space and founded Teach Your Brilliance is because, as you and I were talking off camera, there's a lot of educational components that are key when it comes to learning, adult learning, specifically learning in a digital space, right? Learning online. And when we look at the traditional online course creators, that whole concept of take everything you know and put it into a course isn't in alignment with a lot of what you and I know in terms of education.
That makes sense.
And I think there's this misconception that, well, if I'm an expert, I can teach. And while that could be true if you look at different capacities, when we're talking about really the specific dynamics of online learning, I think there's a lot of components that are missing in the conversation. So very often we see the content is too much, right? That whole the older mindset of quantity over quality, right? That whole like put everything you know into one thing. What we tend to find is that it just causes too much overwhelm. What we know about the learning process is that when we have too much content, our brain goes into overwhelm, which means we're not able to actually process the content. And if we can't process the content, we can't implement, right? Or take action from what we've learned. And, I think traditional education across the board has always had that challenge. The other thing that we see with online courses in the entrepreneurial space is these courses require too much time, and not only too much time to complete, but for any of you that have ever created a full online course, too much time to create, right? And that's one of the key pieces of resistance that I see when I talk to people about, do you have an online course? Do you have plans to create one? It's the, oh, I don't have time to do that right now, right? Component, which makes sense because we're busy serving clients and doing all the things, right? Keeping all the plates spinning. With traditional online courses, also the content isn't always clear or in alignment with what the client is looking for. Something that we have to recognize is that we have our client avatar, right? But our client avatar might be in different places within their customer journey. I was looking at a course the other day, and it was a 12 module course. It was a full online course. It was pretty, it was in the mid-size price range. It was between $1,000 and $2,000. And when I was looking at the content around it, I was like, well, I already know modules 1, 2, and 3. Like I already have that knowledge.
Yeah.
But 4, 5, 6, and 7 is what I really want to learn. But then the last 4 modules, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I was like, I'm not even ready for that yet. Like that is just something I'm not ready for. I'm not at the place in my business where I want to start thinking about that. And so, when you look at a price tag with that online course, considering I only needed 4 or 5 of the 12 modules, right? I did not purchase, and I didn't purchase specifically for that reason. I was like, well, it's not really in complete alignment of what I need right now in this time. And I think that's one of the things that we miss is recognizing, as you probably know, education in general is not cookie cutter. Right? There's got to be some kind of customization or some kind of flexibility if we really want to serve and educate others in a way that's going to meet their needs and what they need to know. Those longer online courses tend to not be very engaging. People lose interest really quickly. I don't know about you, but I certainly have a difficult time sitting through hours of video content.
Unless it's on Netflix, I guess, or Netflix.
Yeah, exactly, right? And we also know that our attention span is about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we kind of start to think about what's for dinner and what errands I need to run when this is over. Maybe we've got a few tabs open that we're looking at. And I read something interesting. I read something around like a goldfish has like 9 minutes of attention time. And in this post-pandemic virtual world, we actually may have smaller attention spans than goldfish, which
yeah, I can buy that.
yes, for sure.
Just get me on Canva or one of those, and I'm like,
yes. I mean, if you all could see my tabs open right now, I'm like total evidence of not having a large attention span. And then content isn't delivered in a way that's conducive to learning. Believe it or not, the very first online course I ever invested in was 30 modules, and they were all video only.
Oh my.
And I am not an auditory learner. I have a very difficult time learning by solely listening, right? And so I was watching the person talk, but it was all just watching someone talk. There were no PowerPoints, there were no demonstrations, there was no screen sharing. And you can probably guess what the outcome was in terms of whether or not I actually finished that course and if I did anything with it. So, this is why we know that things need to shift in the online course space. I think this is also why there tends to sometimes be a bad stigma around online courses, even though we know when it comes to digital marketing, they can really move our business and they can really serve and have a lot of value, So what is the answer? Whoops, we just skipped all the way to the end. The answer is micro-learning, right? And as we said a few minutes ago, we know we're kind of in this space of micro, short, right? Short, specific, niche, quick. Micro-learning is a learning trend where smaller doses of information are consumed at a time. And what this does is it allows learners to focus on one concept, which in turn helps them retain the information better. And we know if they're retaining the information, they have a higher chance of relating that information to themselves and actually implementing and using that information. Now, you probably know that microlearning and that concept, research around microlearning, has been in the educational space for quite some time, right? Recognizing that our brain really prefers to learn in this way. And so where that leads us is the micro course. Small courses that deliver specific content in short, bite-sized lessons, where we're talking about none of the video modules being more than 10 or 15 minutes. and moving away from that dump everything you know into a course,
Mm-hmm.
and starting to think about things like, what if you just produced one chapter in a book instead of the entire book all at once, right? Very niche content. And for anybody who's joining us and watching, I would love to know what kind of content that, do you teach? And if you have like a signature process or system or something like that that you use. Because what I see with a lot of the clients that come to me is they'll come to me and they'll say, I have a 10-step process to, um, you know, gaining visibility on social media. And I have this course and it's about my 10-step process, but nobody finishes it. People say it's too long. People want their money back. People come to me and they say like, well, I didn't really learn anything from it. And I don't know what I did wrong. And if you have an online course out there and you've heard those same things, chances are you didn't do anything wrong, right? Because most courses have really valuable content in them. It's really just the way that they're set up. And so what I would suggest in a case like that is, what if you made 10 micro courses? Instead of having one giant course on all of your 10 steps, what if you had 10 micro courses where people could go through, learn about one step at a time, process it, take action? And of course, if you give them that quick win, what are they going to do? They're going to come back to you, say, that was amazing. I did the thing. What's next? Right? And so you're really moving them through your 10-step system. It's just broken up and it's structured in a way that is more manageable when it comes to content, more manageable when it comes to time, right? More manageable less overwhelming when it comes to what should I do now? So, the micro courses, I think, are not only a big game changer, but if you think about that niche content, also think about all of the possibilities of where you could meet your customer at where they're at and what they currently need. Instead of trying to kind of fit the round peg in the square hole and say, well, I know you need this, but I have this thing.
Yeah. And someone once said to me that you sell people what they think they need, and then you give them what they need.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah. And I just had that conversation with someone this morning because she was saying, I was asking her about her client pain points. And she said, well, this is what they need. And I said, well, is that what they would say? Mm-hmm. And she said, no. They would say that they need to be more productive. They would say that they need time management. And I said, well, then that's what you create your micro course around, right? We as the experts obviously know what they need. But when it comes to digital marketing, we need to be addressing what they think they need. And
so may I ask something here, Kelley? Because I have one of those, I think there are 12 steps in mine, but I know better than to try and teach the whole thing at one time. Right. But although I tried, my first version of it was 18 weeks. So I tried. But in a micro course, how many lessons might that, or how many modules would that typically, or is there a typical?
Well, there isn't a typical, but I think the bigger question is, where are the natural breaks of where they're going to need to kind of think and process and do, right? So, I'm a logical thinker, which I think is why I'm in course creation, right? As I like to pull things and think of them logically. But I think in terms of like math, like I can't teach them multiplication until they learn addition and subtraction, right? And so if my goal is to teach them long-term, long division, I know that they need to learn addition, subtraction, multiplication. But I know if I were to teach them all of that in a day, they would be lost and completely overwhelmed. So all of you are the experts, right, in your own processes. So if you can think, okay, I have a 12-step process. What can I give them in a way that they're getting the foundational knowledge, but then break it up so that they have a break to say, like, okay, let me think about that. Let me process it. Let me take action and then come back for more. So maybe you do one step at a time. You know, if you think about your first step, if you can come up with 3 or 5 points that you would teach someone about that step, that is a perfect size of a micro course.
Okay.
Right? It's your first step. Each video, you film one video on each of your points. You tell them to go take action, and then they come back and they move into the next step, right? Or you may see that in your 12-step process, it's really like 4 phases, right? At which point you could also say, like, okay, I'm going to do 4 micro courses. Each micro course is going to be like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to move them through in phases, and that certainly would work as well.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. You know, the other thing that made sense to me, and I think you're probably going to address it, but is having them do something to implement and then getting them back.
Yes.
You know, and whether that's, you know, like I have a profile course, a LinkedIn profile course. And, you know, at the end or at the beginning, they can request a profile review, you know, a videotape profile review. So they're going to come back to me at some point. And is that the way normally people do this, that create ways or places where they will reconnect?
Yes. And, you know, I think knowing the strategy, and thank you for bringing that up, because that's another misstep that I see, is I see a lot of people and they come and they want to create these courses, and I'm like, but where do they go? You know, where are they leading? Are they leading to a group coaching program? Are they leading to some kind of assessment or a call? Are they leading to one-on-one coaching? Because that is also going to determine what is in the micro course, and more importantly, what is in that final video, right? So if you think about, you know, a micro course and your content, you have your core content that you're teaching, but usually we have a welcome video. This is who I am. This is what you're going to learn. Here's the transformation you can expect. And then you have that concluding video where it's like, congratulations, you went through the course, right? You did the thing. And in that concluding video, there's a really big opportunity to be able to say, what are your next steps?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Right? Like, now that you've created a micro course, what comes next? And those next steps are going to tell them, basically, circle back around to me and let's get on a call so I can help you build your micro course. Come into my group program so you can have accountability for making sure that it gets launched, right?
Yeah.
So it's got to be strategic, which is why I say, you know, I'm not just a course creator, I'm a curriculum strategist, because it's really the strategy, you know, your entire digital marketing strategy.
Okay.
Of like, where is this going? We see a lot of people that have a ton of courses, but they're disjointed.
Yeah.
One leads here, it's about this thing, and like one leads here. And I get a lot of people that come and say, I have these courses, but they don't really lead to one another. You know, or they compete against one another instead of like leading up to the bigger picture.
Okay.
And so that's really key. You really want to know before you create the course, where do I want them to go after this? Right?
What's the next step?
What's the next step? Right. So, you know, what we see with micro courses is because they're so short and niche, talking about next steps, you can create a number of them that helps your avatar cross the river over to you.
I like that.
Right? It could be a lead magnet. It could be, you know, something that they go into maybe after a master class or a workshop. You could put them in a place that leads to your higher ticket program. I had a conversation with a realtor the other day who was interested in creating micro courses. And she said, well, where do you think this would fit in for me? Right. And she was having a really hard time just kind of streamlining her leads. And I said, well, let's just start with, where do you spend a lot of your time? She said, well, I spend a lot of my time on people who call me and they're thinking about selling their home, but they're not sure yet. And I said, do you basically tell them the same thing? Like, do you have like your go-to, here are 5 things you need to think about before you sell your home? She says, all the time. I have the same conversations. I usually spend an hour with these people. And I said, well, that is a great topic for a micro course.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, they're not ready to come across the river and sell their home yet, but you could give them a micro course that says, you know what? Why don't you watch my micro course? It's the 5 keys to selling your home. Let's schedule a call for next week when you've had time to watch it. And, let's save you the hour of explaining all the things.
Yeah.
And that for the people that end up booking the call who get through the course, they probably are more likely to be ready to sell once they are aware of like all the things.
Sure.
The people who are like, oh, that's a lot, we don't have time for that right now, they're probably not going to book a call, which is really just giving you your time back.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So
because I think we all waste a lot of time with tire kickers.
Yes.
And I hear that so much from coaches that have, somebody's window shopping, which is great, but, we're all very small businesses, and how much window shopping, can we afford?
Right. Right. And it's also a great way to test your audience. For anybody out there who is thinking, I feel like I want to start a program, or I'm thinking about maybe doing a workshop. I get a lot of that, like, should I create a 12-week program? And I say, put a micro course out around it.
Yeah.
If people come through your micro course and finish it, the answer is yes. Right? If it's crickets, that's probably not what they want to learn.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So there's a lot of really great uses, I think, besides just adding value and educating your audience so that they can learn, to be able to use that in your digital marketing plan or strategy. So, when we look at the concept of the micro course, you really can create a micro course in 5 easy steps. And I know easy typically doesn't go in the same sentence as online course creation. But because the micro course is so specific and niche, there's really 5 main things to think about. 1, who is your ideal avatar? And more importantly, where are they at in their customer journey? Are they at like an awareness level? Do they know they have a problem and they're looking for a solution? Have they solved a solution and now they're looking for the next step, right? Where are they in their journey? Once you know where they are in your journey, you can get really clear on your content. Okay. So if you know that you have a client who maybe is ready to scale their business, you can get really clear on what they need to know versus a client who's just starting a business.
Yeah.
Right? Because those things are really different. Once you have the content clarity, you can start to choose your course structure. Is it going to be 5 lessons? Is it going to be 3 lessons? How long is it going to be? What platform are you going to put it on? Are you going to include resources and things like that? Where does it fit in your, in your funnel or your lead magnet or your digital marketing plan? And then you determine how to deliver the content. Is it going to be an audio course? Is it going to be video? I am a big fan, and as you probably know from education, in recognizing that the more ways you can deliver your content, the more people it's going to reach.
Sure.
In today's day and age with AI and things like that, it's very easy to record a video and then have an audio pulled from it, have a transcript pulled.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's worth the extra time. to be able to say like, hey, if you're not a video person, don't worry, there's downloads in here. You can read the
Yes.
outline and still learn from them.
And I'm a big fan of giving them like slides and everything too. If it's a PowerPoint presentation,
Yes.
because I like them and then I write all over them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That visual and tactile.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing too is, recognizing like with content delivery, if you're someone out there that teaches like how to use a platform, or maybe you teach how to create graphics that make them stop their scroll,
Oh, yeah.
then you should be doing screen shares. Part of your delivery should be demonstrations.
Yeah.
Right? How much more impact? I teach about AI a lot, and it's so much different when I talk about what AI can do or when I say, let me just show you.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to keep that in mind too. Are there things they're going to need to see? Can infographics or diagrams help make this content a little bit more clear? And then we don't want to forget about engagement boosters. Everybody loves to be celebrated for their accomplishments. And just because, your first lesson is only 10 minutes doesn't mean that they shouldn't get some kind of email, congratulations for completing that first lesson. Maybe it's a badge. Maybe you've got a Facebook community or something where you're shouting people out, or you're allowing them to check in and celebrating them for like, way to go, you're halfway through. Right. But I think that's an important piece to recognize that, a lot of these self-led courses, they lose interest because it feels like you're kind of all alone. And right. And nobody's
you feel isolated with
paying
it.
attention. Yeah. So, even though these are short and quicker, we don't want to forget that people just need that kind of boost.
Yeah, we really do. And we seek it out. So that it would seem to me that if you had a really good course that kept people engaged, that they would be looking for more from you.
Absolutely. And if people feel like you're one of their biggest cheerleaders, why wouldn't they come back? If you give them confidence, make them feel accomplished, if you celebrate their wins, like that's how you turn your leads into lifelong clients. Is really being able to up-level that type of customer journey.
That's so interesting, because one of the things that we were talking about earlier is that very often we don't recognize that people come through a customer journey, and that there are many different places that we can engage them throughout. So. Anyway, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So for anybody who's like, where do I start? Right. I just wanted to share some questions.
Oh, great.
To ask yourself, who is my ideal client? What are their pain points or problems that my content can address? What are their current goals and aspirations? How do they consume content? I had the pleasure of working with a mass tort attorney who wanted to help other lawyers build successful mass tort firms.
Wow.
And he said, how should I deliver the content? And I said, well, how do you listen to content? And he said, oh, well, I'm so busy. Like, unless it's like on a podcast or I can listen to it while I'm driving, but I barely have time to read anything, to watch anything. And I said, well, there's your answer. Like if you're so busy that it's got to be some kind of audio so that you can listen on the run, I'm pretty sure your fellow lawyers out there are going through the same thing. What kind of visuals or aesthetics appeal to them? What are their values and beliefs? What motivates and inspires them to take action? What type of content or topics have they engaged with in the past? What are their expectations from my content or brand? And how can I differentiate my content from competitors targeting the same client?
All good questions.
Yes. And notice that many of them are about the client. right? Because
They're all about the client.
Mhm.
In fact, I think they pretty much all are. Well, how do I differentiate my content? Maybe,
Yeah. Yeah, and that falls more like in the marketing space,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I get so many people that say, I want to hire you. I want your help in creating a course. This is what I want to teach. I'm really passionate about this. I want to create a course on this. And I always come back to like, but is this what your clients want? Are they ready for it? Because if the answer is no, then you're going to put a lot of work into something that potentially isn't going to be seen as valuable. It's really about meeting them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And with the micro courses, it's really easy to do that. If we're talking about 5-10 minute videos, you could record a micro course just by putting an hour and a half aside.
Yeah. I was thinking a weekend because I'm slower, but
Yeah, I mean, I have done a micro course where I'm just like, okay, husband and kids, go see a movie. I'm going to sit home and I'm going to record my micro course.
Yeah.
And, as you probably know as a teacher, sometimes it's easier just to keep going, right? Instead of going, oh, I did the first 2 lessons yesterday. I kind of forgot what you get in your flow.
Yes.
Of kind of teaching. And so it's really easy to sit and, and to record these, upload them to Kajabi, Kartra, Teachable, Thinkific, whatever online course platform you might be using. And like I said, it's such a great way to set yourself apart from your competitors, to be able to say, like, I have this thing for you. It's super consumable. You'll be able to take action right away.
Yeah.
And then they can come back for more.
That is a great idea because, I was just doing something earlier talking about branding and, how do you promote your brand? There are 10 ways that I came up with. That could easily be a micro course.
Yes.
Something like that. And I hadn't even thought about it until I talked to you, Kelley. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, those are the final questions. Again, like, take note of them, start brainstorming around them. I just think that the concept of the micro course, when used strategically, can not only just be so powerful when it comes to your digital marketing strategy, right?
Yeah.
But it just adds so much value to how you can show up and serve your clients. It gives you flexibility in your product ladder with pricing. I have we've created a lot of micro courses. She has about 8 now. And I was like, open a membership. You have 8 micro courses.
Yeah.
Start at $39 membership, create a micro course a month, let them have access to your vault, or bundle them, sell all 8 of them together for $400, $400 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It gives you such maneuverability and such flexibility, just in how you can use them to market yourself, to give value to your clients, to, have a greater impact on the amount of people that you reach.
Yeah. So I know people are thinking this, so I'm just going to ask it. What would be the range of, I know this is a terrible question because there's so many different factors, but, in terms of pricing a micro course, is there kind of a place where they tend to fall?
Yeah, I think a micro course can probably be priced anywhere from free lead magnet to maybe like $97, dependent on, do you have downloads as part of that micro course? Are there extra resources? Maybe are there templates? I just created a micro course that was part of a 15 module course.
Okay.
And we picked one of those modules on how to launch your book.
Okay.
And we pulled that out. We made it into a micro course. but he had so many, he has like email templates, social media templates,
Oh, wow.
websites to find how to promote your book for free, right? All of those things. And he said, should we include those? And I said, do
Yeah.
you want this to be free or do you want to charge
Yeah.
for it? And he said,
Do you
well, I'm
want
going to charge for
yeah.
it. And I said, then yes, let's include all of those templates. They have this huge, amount of resources. And he's selling it for $97. He just told me the other day, he said, I'm embarrassed at how much money this micro course has pulled in.
Well, yeah. If you have something that people really want,
Mhm.
and I think you hit the key right at the very beginning, Kelley, when you said, not just what they want, but what they need.
Yeah.
And talk for just a minute about um, how having success at one point, like at that one micro course, how do you lead them down the path to the next one?
Well, I think it really can be as easy as just, again, making sure you have that strategy, right? Making sure you have the bigger vision of, if I'm going to do this, where do I want them to go after, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then whether it's follow-up email campaigns, it's personal outreach. I mean, with a lot of these, with most online course platforms, they hook up with your email system. They can be triggered as people finish the modules.
Yeah.
I think a very simple way would be like, congratulations, you're done with the course.
Yeah.
These are probably the things that you've accomplished. Here's what you may be thinking. And so here's the next step.
Yeah.
Whether,
I like that.
whether that's another micro course, whether it's join my program,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it can be. I think it's really key. And I actually just worked with a client. We had a micro course. He does his 5D system to starting a business. He has 2 different client avatars. He has people who are starting businesses, but he also has a lot of people who are retired, wanting to start
Interesting.
their passion project. He calls them fourth quarter business owners.
That's cool.
Although I'm always like, okay, just because you're retired does not mean you're in your last quarter of life. I just want to put that out there. So he and I go back and forth about that all the time, right? But so we created the same course, we duplicated it. He gave his 5D system, but we recorded 2 introductions and we recorded 2 conclusions.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So one was like, you're retired, you're ready to start, on your passion, you want to leave a legacy behind you. The other one was like, you're a new business owner, you're trying to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted them to go to 2 different places. He has a membership, but he also has a specific group coaching program for these fourth quarter business owners.
Yeah.
So in the final video, one said, and if you want more community, more accountability, a safe space to grow your business, here's my membership.
Oh, that's great.
The other video said, and if you want support in, bringing your legacy alive, join my coaching program.
Yeah.
So he had 2 different products right off the bat, and he really just had to film 2 extra 10-minute videos.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're funneling through. He's segmenting his audience just based on who's opting into these micro courses. So it's been a powerful way, for him to generate leads, for him to segment his list, and things like that. So they're just so flexible.
This has been so insightful. And as we were saying earlier, coming out of that higher ed world, it's so different. It's, and we can't require them to do their homework and come before they can come back to class. But I think, that what you have illustrated to us so clearly is how powerful a micro course can be, but also, how it can be one step in that marketing strategy. It can either be that free lead magnet, as you were talking about, but if you can bundle 3 courses together as a package, that's really great. And I think people are just really excited about that. So I want to thank you so much. This has been so helpful to me, and I am pretty darn sure that there's some other people here that have just really enjoyed this presentation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I know there's so much possibility for everybody, that's part of the summit to go and create a micro course and, really use that to serve more people and to up-level their business.
And we are going to, because, this is on and off, at different times, I'm going to send out something with all of the free gifts to everyone who is registered. So they will see it again. Okay. And, so watch for that. And I guess that's it. I just thank you again for taking part of your busy weekend. I think you were traveling too.
Yes. But it worked out. Yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Carol. Or
Thank
Kelly.
you.
I called you Carol. Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You too. Bye-bye.